They can't always be superstars. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another college football recruiting throwback video going over my top 10 college football recruiting busts of all time. I could probably make 5 of these videos. There are so many different 5-star players that have busted out. Now, when I compiled my top 10 list, I wanted to keep most of the guys pretty modern because recruiting is done a lot more accurately. There's a lot more camps, a lot more numbers, meaning the busts are even a bigger deal, in this day and age. So most of these kids are going to be more recent. There's a few kids from the early 2000s, but most are pretty recent. And again, this was just done by me. You could include about 100 different guys on this list, but it's always interesting to see a 5-star that doesn't even come close to living up to his potential, why that happened, what happened to him, things like that. That's what we're going to explore in this video. So I will be counting down starting at number 10 on my all-time. Every single one of these kids was a 247 Sports composite 5-star. Most of them were top 10 players. I'm going to have their overall ranking and everything like that. But coming in at number 10, it is Derrick Green, the running back from Virginia, the 27th overall player. I do have to give 247 Sports credit. In their solo rankings, they had him at 84th, so they had him a lot lower than the overall industry, but he still was a composite 5-star, the number 4 overall running back, the number 3 overall player from Virginia. Crazy recruiting battle. Every big-time school wanted him. He was a high school beast. He was a big-bodied running back, and Michigan secured his commitment. You can take a look. Guys, just take a look at this kid's stats. Seriously, the craziest thing about, he has the 3 years at Michigan, then he transfers to TCU. Look at his averages. For a college football running back, your career yards per carry, 4.2. You know how abysmal that is? He had 9 total touchdowns. The most rushing yards he had in a single season was 471 his sophomore season. He was a big guy. It was tough for him to keep the weight off. And when it comes to Derrick Green, the overall story, he was the highest rated running back signee by Michigan in 2016, according to ESPN. Tom Luginbill on ESPN called Green's commitment a defining moment for Michigan, noting that he fits with what Brady Hoke and the staff want to do with their identity. But during preseason practice in August 2013, Green reported to camp at 240 pounds, raising questions about a 20-pound weight gain since his senior season of high school. He was a big running back, but it was all downhill from there. Really unfortunate career for Derrick Green. He comes in at number 10 overall on my biggest college football recruiting busts. Coming in at number 9, it's our athlete receiver from the 2011 class, George Farmer, who ended up committing to USC. He's from California. This was the number 8 overall player, the number 1 wide receiver, and the number 1 kid from the state of California. He played at USC as a freshman in the 2011 season, appearing in 4 games, mostly as a running back. He caught 4 passes for a grand total of 42 yards and returned 3 kickoffs, but it got really scary his sophomore year. It says the next year he suffered a serious bite from a brown recluse spider before the start of summer workouts. Oh my goodness. He tore, and then it looks like before his junior season, he tore his ACL and MCL in preseason practice. Wow. And he declared to enter the NFL draft after his junior season. Now his overall numbers you can take there at USC. Total receiving yards, I'm surprised he declared after his junior year. 363 total yards. He did appear in 10 games as a junior. Not much in terms of rushing. And then you can take a look at his NFL career. He signed with the Seattle Seahawks as an undrafted free agent. Appeared in a grand total of 2 games. And his career stat line, 1 rush for 1 yard. You gotta love it. George Farmer comes in at number 9 on this list. Coming in at number 8, we move to the 2014 class. It's going to be Ermon Lane. Now, just judging by this name, you would think, yeah, that kid's probably going to be a bust. Nothing against him, but he was a receiver from Florida, the number 24 overall player in the class. He's a top 3 receiver, a clear 5-star, the number 4 overall player in the state of Florida. He committed to FSU. I saw this little fun article. Should Florida worry about FSU stealing 5-star wide receiver Ermon Lane? No, they shouldn't, because he was not any good. His career at Florida State, the most, actually it looks like, oh yeah, this was the kid that he ended up transitioning to DB. First of all, his receiving stats, he played a decent amount as a true freshman. 267 total receiving yards, 1 career touchdown, nothing really that impressive. Looks like he played both ways. He played both as a receiver and as a defensive back but his senior season at Florida State, but his overall numbers, he had a grand total of half a tackle for loss, 0 sacks. I believe he played DB, 34 total tackles. And when I was looking up his professional career, I actually found his CFL page. And as you can see, he's right there. So I was like, wow, he's playing. He's 27 years old, but then he's got no stats. He's literally got zeros across the board. So I'm not sure if he's even signed by a team. He might be a free agent in the CFL. Either way, we wish nothing but the best for him. It's unfortunate. You're a 5-star. Sometimes it doesn't work out. It is what it is. Let's move on to number 7. This is a big human being. And this is from the 2017 class, so more recent. Marvin Wilson, the massive defensive tackle, the number 6 overall player in the entire country, the number 1 overall defensive tackle, and the number 1 player from the state of Texas. I vividly remember this kid visiting Texas for their game against Notre Dame. You guys remember when they were like, Texas is back, when Texas beat Notre Dame. I believe it was in overtime. I remember him being there. I remember that game. Matthew McConaughey was there. I don't know why I remember that, but this was a huge recruit. Ohio State was involved. Alabama, LSU. This was one of the kids you did not think could fail. He's too big. He is humanly too big. The hype surrounding this kid, he's a franchise defensive tackle. He's the next Fletcher Cox. It just didn't work out. And he ended up signing with the Cleveland Browns as an undrafted free agent. And he ended up actually getting waived August 31st, 2021. So he spent 3 years with the Browns, and then he signed on with the Philadelphia Eagles. His career at FSU was nothing to write home about. But I will say, Marvin Wilson, I remember after, I believe, his junior year, he was being mocked in first rounds. And when the Browns signed him as a free agent in 2021, there was a lot of hype around it. It was like, this is the best undrafted free agent signing out of anyone. And he ended up getting cut, and he signed on with the Philadelphia Eagles. And his current career stats with the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 total tackles, 0 sacks for Marvin Wilson. I also found this was funny. You can buy his jersey. I dare someone to go buy Marvin Wilson's jersey at the Philadelphia Eagles team store, the number 65. It's only $59.99. It looks like maybe free shipping. There might be free shipping on that. Marvin Wilson, too big to fail. He's a big man. He's a run stuffer. He's just got to move around a little bit. He's so massive, but he did fail as a recruit. He actually had some decent years at FSU. Again, it was a surprise he went undrafted. The Browns got him. They were like, wow, this kid's a steal. They signed him to a pretty big undrafted deal. And you know what? They ended up cutting him before he couldn't even make it to week 1 of the NFL season. They ended up cutting him. So he comes in at number 7 on this list. Moving on to number 6. We move to the 2018 class, and we move to an Alabama 5-star bust. Eyabi Anoma, the number 4 overall player, twitchy, fast, really freak athlete type pass rusher from Baltimore, Maryland, recruited by everyone, the number 1 overall pass rusher in the entire nation for the 2018 class. So that's recent. These kids go to all these camps. The recruiting rankings should be more accurate, but this kid has completely busted out. He actually transferred to Houston, and then he transferred to, I believe, an FCS school, UT Martin. So he's at UT Martin currently. His career numbers at Alabama, 6 total tackles. Those were his numbers, and now he's on UT Martin. And something a little fun here, shout out to him. Looks like he won the OVC Player of the Week in 2021 for UT Martin. He looks like a man amongst boys. He's a beast. I mean, you can tell, you take one good look at him, you can tell why this kid was a 5-star. He's one of those twitchy, great pass rushers, just couldn't put it together, transfers out of Alabama, goes to Houston, and I think he got dismissed from Houston. Initial reports suggested Houston dismissed Anoma due to a violation of team rules. A new report indicated Anoma did not change his behavior from what led to his dismissal from Alabama. Skipping class, tardiness, clashing with teammates. You hate to see kids go down this road. This guy could have been very easily a first-round pick. You've got all the physical tools. If you're the number 4 overall player in 2018, there's a reason. You're showing out at camps. You're committed to frickin' Alabama. You hate to see stuff like this. Maybe he can turn his career around at UT Martin. Who knows? But he comes in at number 6 on the list. Moving on down to number 5 of the biggest busts in college football recruiting history. We're going all the way back to the class of 2000, Brock Berlin, who committed to Florida. He's a pro-style quarterback, big guy, 6'2", 180, number 2 player in the nation. Number 1 quarterback, rated 9998. So very close to being the number 1 overall player in the nation. Brock Berlin, he actually transferred to Miami after his sophomore season. You can take a look at his overall career college numbers. Look at his junior season, man. I understand it was a different time back then, but 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. He finished the number 2 overall prospect, finished his college career with 45 passing touchdowns, 25 interceptions between 2 different schools. He started only his junior and senior seasons, and his NFL career stats. Remember, this is the number 2 overall recruit in the nation, the number 1 quarterback. His final NFL numbers: 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, 159 passing yards, 58 passer rating. It's unfortunate. But hey, you know what, guys? I was looking him up. You can buy his rookie card right now on Amazon if you're interested for $198. And also, what else did I find? I found this action photo if you're interested in a Brock Berlin Miami Hurricanes action photo, $459. Looks like you've got Amazon Prime free shipping. You can get it by May 19th. Maybe May 18th with the free shipping, the 2-day free shipping. Maybe you get it expedited. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there, guys. Go get your hands on a Brock Berlin action photo for $459. But he comes in at number 5 on my list, the number 2 overall player, threw 0 touchdown passes in the NFL. It is the class of 2000, so the rankings weren't nearly as accurate, but still, it's crazy to look back. Committed to Florida. He comes in at number 5. Moving on down, the number 4 overall player on my biggest recruiting busts in history. A kid from the 2011 class. It's going to be Patrick Turner. We share the same first name. I hate doing it. Patrick Turner, the number 2 overall player in the nation, receiver, the number 1 receiver. This is one of the highest rated receivers ever in the history of recruiting. And he's from Tennessee. He goes to USC. That's a great job by USC to get a kid to commit from Tennessee. I found this part funny. When I looked up his Wikipedia page, I'm just going to read this off. In 2007, Turner finished 2nd on the team in receiving yards with 569, followed only tight end Fred Davis, who led the team with 881. With the departure of Davis to the NFL, Turner was expected to step up his production and become the number 1 option for the Trojans in 2008. And then the next line, Turner was one of 12 USC players invited. It's like, what did he do in the 2008 season? They just completely skipped over it. But you can see the 2018 season, he did have 741 receiving yards. And this kid was actually drafted in the 3rd round. He's one of the rare kids that was actually drafted in the 3rd round by the New York Jets. But his overall NFL numbers, 10 receptions, 22 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. That's a bust for being a third-round pick, no doubt. His college numbers, nothing to write home about. The most receiving yards. He did have 10 touchdowns his senior season. We give him credit for that. But this is the number 2 overall player in the entire country. One of the highest-rated receivers ever. You got to put up better stats than that, or else you're going to appear on a list like this. Top 10 recruiting busts of all time. Patrick Turner comes in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 on the list, it's a kid from 2015, so pretty recently, committed to Auburn, Byron Cowart, who was another kind of athletic, physical, alien freak pass rusher, expected to be the next amazing pass rusher, the number 3 overall player in the country from Florida. Massive recruiting win for Auburn, or so they thought. Unfortunately, he ended up leaving Auburn in 2017, where he attended a community college near his Florida home. In December, he announced he was transferring to Maryland for the 2018 season, and he was selected in the 5th round of, I believe, the 2019 draft. His overall, I was surprised when I saw his NFL numbers. He actually started 14 games in 2020 with the New England Patriots. Unfortunately, he only had 3 tackles for loss, and I believe he's only had 1 sack in his entire career. His overall college numbers, if you're an Auburn fan, you're on cloud 9. You get the number 3 overall player in the country from the state of Florida. He ends up giving you 0 total sacks through his 3 years at Auburn, and a grand total of 1.5 tackles for loss. You give him credit. He ends up transferring to Maryland. He puts up an okay season. He plays a lot. He had 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, but still, if you're going to be the number 3 overall player, you need more production than that. He finished his entire college career with 3 sacks. He comes in at number 3 overall on the list. Moving on down to the top 2. Number 2, this is the only guy to be the number 1 overall recruit in the nation and go undrafted. Trenton Thompson. Very similar to Marvin Wilson. This was a big, huge-bodied guy that many people thought couldn't fail. It was impossible for a guy this big to fail. From the state of Georgia, ranked as the number 1 overall player in the nation, the number 1 defensive tackle, and he commits to Georgia. Just taking a look at his overall NFL career after going undrafted, I believe he came out his junior year, unfortunately. Take a look at his career history. Cleveland Browns, the Browns signed him and then actually released him, so he was signed by the Browns as an undrafted free agent, then released. Arizona hotshot, Baltimore, Washington, Edmonton, Houston, Team 9. What is that, some Logan Paul team or something? This dude's been playing everywhere. It's unfortunate. It's crazy to think this was the number 1 overall recruit just back in 2015. His junior year in high school, he had 38 tackles for loss his junior year. And then his senior year, I believe he had like 36. So just crazy numbers. His overall production at Georgia, he had a pretty decent sophomore year. Trenton Thompson, 9.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. Those are better numbers than Trayvon Walker. Low blow there, but you can take a look at his junior year. Coming out as a junior, probably got some bad advice, probably should have stayed considering he went undrafted and then could not latch on with the Cleveland Browns. This is a number 1 overall recruit that has not played a single down in the NFL. Unfortunately, he comes in at number 2 on my list of biggest recruiting bust. And number 1, you think Trenton Thompson would have been number 1, but there's a guy that I believe still to this day has not played a single college football snap. And it is a sad story, and it is the number 5 overall player from the 2019 class, Antonio Alfano, who was actually the number 1 overall player according to 247 solo rankings. They had this kid as the #1 overall player. The composite had him at #5, #1 overall player in the state of New Jersey, commits to Alabama. This was a kid in recruiting. He rose up so late in the process. I remember him. It's like, where did this kid come from? Now, all of a sudden, at the end, the last rankings update they did, he turned out he was the #1 player. It's like, nobody even knew about this kid. He wasn't even a top 100 player throughout most of the cycle. He moved up, and it says, as a freshman at Alabama, Alfano was absent from class and practices in September for unspecified reasons. Alfano entered the transfer portal in 2019 and transferred to Colorado, where he was dismissed from Colorado. So he had some struggles his freshman year. He wasn't at practices at Alabama. Apparently he's been battling with epilepsy. He ended up transferring to Colorado, where he ended up transferring out. And the last update I got from Antonio Alfano, he's headed to Last Chance U. I'm guessing he transferred out of there too. I'm just saying. But no, this kid legitimately, I do not believe to this day has played a single college football snap. I'm not talking about like, oh, he doesn't have a tackle, he doesn't have a sack. No, he has not played in a game. And he was the #5 overall player in the class of 2019. #1 overall player according to 247 solo rankings. So this is an extreme case, and unfortunately, just due to how recent it is, he comes in at #1 overall on my list of biggest busts. You go to his overall college football reference page, it's empty. There's nothing there. It says, on his reference page that he's on Colorado, but apparently, former top 30 football recruit, transfers from Colorado, so I do not believe he's on Colorado anymore. And he comes in at #1 on the list. So just wanted to do a little recruiting throwback video. Top 10 overall biggest busts, guys. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.